Is fucked and what the fuck Wednesday.
Yeah.
It is Wednesday, right? Yes, it's Wednesday. I have to work today. That's so yes. It's definitely Wednesday. Let me get to the YouTubes. The YouTubes. Apparently John Stewart is stepping back up and saying things. So that's kind of cool.
Is the first thing. Boy, did I pick a good host for the Daily Show.
I know what it should be. It
He
definitely
definitely has popped up and said that a bunch of times, and he's definitely right.
Yeah. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hashtag Coffee on the So Local Live Network. I don't know why we keep saying that because we hardly ever broadcast from there anymore. But yeah. Hi, good morning. Welcome.
SoLocal.live if you feel like donating to support the show.
That would be good. That would be good.
That would be good. And that's still SoLocal.live. So that's the thing that's real.
What the fuck? I'm sharing back. So give me just a minute to vamp.
I'm actually just pulling up an article on Tulsa World, which is a little presumptuous for a small town newspaper. Just saying.
Say that again. Repeat that, please. Tell me what.
I just pulled up an article on Tulsa World and then made fun of their name because I'm a bit of an asshole.
Hey, we have an embedded agent in Tulsa, you know.
I do know that. And
or in that region, anyway.
I hope that she is planning on, and I think that she has actually kind of been maintaining as much lockdown as she possibly could anyway.
Yep.
But if there's any way to ramp that up.
She just messaged me, and I haven't read it yet, but so.
All right. I got to pull up the live here.
That would be, by the way, for those that are wondering, our friend Jareen, who is often in our comment threads. And
has her own wrench.
Has her own what?
She's got a wrench. She's a mod on the thing, so she's got.
Oh, great. Okay, I thought I didn't understand what was going on there.
Yep.
Okay, so here's the thing that happened that you will hardly ever hear me brag about. I got an outreach yesterday from Todd Richardson, who's one of the big wigs with Equality Florida, and it just so happens that I know Todd from high school. And he does a lot of work in gay rights issues, political gay rights issues in Florida. And he messaged me yesterday about a problem he was having up here with somebody that was being verbally abused and sort of tortured by their neighbors. A young man with agoraphobia and other mental and emotional health issues gay, who was being accosted and attacked regularly by his neighbors. And he didn't know, Todd didn't know who to reach out to on that. And I actually remembered that there is a sheriff's department official who is in charge of mental health and community outreach on mental health issues. And I know that because she works with homeless populations. And I called her, left a message, told her to expect Todd's call, and she is all over this morning. So the one person in the sheriff's office that is in charge of dealing with mental health issues and community liaison on those issues is actually attacking the problem this morning. Imagine if there were 25 sheriff's deputy personnel that worked those issues. Imagine if 30 or 50 sheriff's department personnel were trained and prepared to work with those kind of issues.
Or imagine that none of them did. And that it was actually with a department of people that were expert in just that.
Yeah.
Not that I'm for defunding the police. Just kidding. I am. I guess we should can we talk about how much do you know about Chaz?
Well, I know that there is just burning and looting every day.
Yes.
That they've been crucifying city officials on the lawn in one of the parks there.
I just heard about the crucifixions. That's new.
Right.
Yep.
And that they are all starving to death.
Oh yeah. Well, they started starving within minutes of declaring. Yeah, that happened.
Yeah. And by know that I mean I know the exact opposite of that. Like I'm seeing those images that Fox doctored and put up about the armed Antifa members guarding the gates, and at the same time I'm watching somebody's live video where people are like.
It's like barbecue. It's like everybody's all happy and stuff, and
everybody's puppies are playing together.
Police department and made it like the Palace of Wellness or whatever the fuck they call it.
Well, I don't think that can last. I don't think that can last. But I wouldn't have thought that a system of systematic slavery and racism could last either. But here we are. So Yeah.
Fred just said I have a friend in Chaz. He's talked about it as a beautiful area, and this is the thing, right? Like the and of course it's in freaking Seattle, lots of gardening. Never mind. I'm just gonna leave it there. Fred just said I have a friend in Chaz. He's talked about it as a beautiful area, lots of gardening.
So horror. That's like socialism, bro. I'm like, yeah, look at those poor bastards in Western Europe.
Right? I mean, that's
with their 30 weeks of vacation.
Yeah, exactly. Those fucking weirdos.
And free healthcare. Poor fuckers. They don't have any idea.
The extent to which the propaganda arm of the fascist United States government is freaking out about that, I think is very telling.
Yeah.
They require control, and they require it to be basically, with our consent, which we give constantly, no matter what happens, right? It's sort of that bedrock. Well, you can't start throwing Molotov cocktails or just declare yourself not part of the United States until someone does.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, no, we're good. You guys stay on that side of the fence. We'll call you if we need you.
You know the hands on hips guy, right? The he looks vaguely East Indian. That meme? Do you know that meme?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, geez. I got to find this because I have to show it to you because it's relevant to this and it's funny. So give me just a moment to...
Yeah, Dave, you're right. I can't stand the names to some of this stuff, just given the whole world needs a better publicist right now. You are right. Chaz is a terrible name, but I kind of also like it. But then again, I don't know. That's probably on me.
Well, I'm interested to hear... I'm interested to hear more about Chaz. I think we need. Why don't we make a road trip? Why don't we make a?
Let's see, Fred. Could we interview your buddy?
Oh, there's a good idea.
Yeah, I would love to interview anybody that's actually there right now. I'd be like, hey, can you tell us about your weirdo hellscape, please? That'd be cool. Now the title of this episode is Tulsa's fucked, as well as other stuff. So
why is Tulsa fucked, Corey? Tell us that.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can get some updated details. Basically, the first rally of the COVID era. Trump's campaign manager is saying that 1 million people have purchased tickets.
3 million.
Or have 3 million?
3 million.
They're
free. They're free, so 3 million people have signed up.
Okay. So it's just like, please take all of my information for the rest of the time.
Right,
okay.
For a 19,000 seat arena. So
yeah, no. So this is the thing. Here's what we know, with reasonable certainty, there will be more than 19,000 people there.
Yes.
So inside that room, that enclosed room,
all those people are going to get sick.
I mean, the percentage, it's not certain. The percentage likelihood that will not be a super spreader event is like 0.0, probably 10 zeros 1. It's just, it's possible. We have to allow that it's possible. It's also possible to get hit by lightning 5 times while riding a bicycle wearing nothing but a tutu. But it's still, that's not out of the realm of physics. I guess to me, is this the ultimate end, frankly, of kind of the self-poning hoax, right? This is a hoax. Pence is out saying this isn't a thing, while local newspapers everywhere, record numbers. Hospitals are starting to fill up, clearly hitting the knee of another curve of another swell, right? All over the country.
For instance, even knowing in Florida that they've been cooking the data and discounting pneumonia cases, we had a record day yesterday.
Well, and Miami's talking about shutting down again. Right?
Yeah.
Did you hear about those 16 girls that went to a bar a few days ago
in Jacksonville? Yes, it's national news, by the way.
Yeah, no, I was on. I read it this morning, but I heard it on Chris Hayes this morning as well. So yeah, 16 girls go to a bar. I didn't know it was in Jacksonville, and every one of them got sick.
Right.
So again, there are other people going to other bars where that doesn't happen. Right. So this is not something that happens all the time, but it statistically happens enough so that if you open up, and if you just ignored that, Well, then, they're going to end up going to another bar or somebody that they have infected in the interim 4 or 5 days before they could actually get tested, or a week or whatever it was. Right. So like, I just like that. I'm trying to understand, even cynically. No. We're going to have this thing in Tulsa anyway, with an existential risk, not for my political career, which is already fucking in the toaster. Like Trump is finished. But like,
boy, I've said that before and regretted it.
Yeah, I'm feeling better about it all the time. Don't get me wrong, everybody who wants to scream at me, oh my God, hubris, I get it. I understand that. But like, from a cynical point of view, assuming that history is still playing, and again, like, we know how that goes. What's the move here? Right? Like, we're going to train you to trust me no matter what, even when it kills you?
Even when you have to sign a waiver that says if you get sick, you can't sue me?
But like, how many people are going to be coming out of town because it's the first dummy rally in a long time,
right?
And they all go back to their states. So
it's stopping at every Cracker Barrel on the way.
The Crackle Barrel plague of 2020. Oh no! I just like it. You have to just be in fucking La La Land to think this is a good idea.
Right. Going back to Chaz for a moment,
as we all should.
This guy. Texans watching Seattle actually manage to form their own country.
That's good shit.
That guy is hilarious. That meme is hilarious to me. Like,
that's funny.
I have another one further up the page. That's, I have another one of the same. Let me see. Let me find him. Here he is.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I like this one too. Here. Undercover cops posing as drug buyers are arrested by undercover cops posing as drug dealers. Taxpayers. So yeah, I just thought I'd share those two. We needed a little chuckle this morning. I feel like.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Whistling
past the graveyard, as it were.
Right. Getting to some comments here. Jenny said there's only going to be more infections if we test. Obviously, playing off the dummy and cheese, like, no, it's just bad because we're testing people now. Yep.
Yeah.
So apparently, Lindsey Graham is putting the complete blame on Dems for not passing police reform legislation for 8 years under Obama.
Oh, Trump did that yesterday as well.
Obama
and Biden did nothing because they didn't know how.
Right. Well, I mean, they're playing on the now well-worn path that they know that 25 to 35% of Americans are the dumbest people who have ever lived.
Since
just like it's not rocket science.
Since 1930s Germany, anyway.
Woohoo!
Yep.
Shots fired.
Yeah. So I got a couple of things to read. One that I wrote.
Well, we can do that. Kathy just said they're never going to show us people who get sick and die from this event. They will only show the people who are asymptomatic or never caught it. Everyone else will be a Democratic hoax. While you're right, that will be their messaging. You can't. Well, and this is like one of the things I think Rachel had on. I can't remember the city, but it was basically doctors trying to ask them to close back down, maybe in North Carolina or something, and people in hospitals coming into the city council, I think maybe even Texas actually, asking them to shut back down. And they basically said, no, we don't think it's as serious as all that. She's like, my ICU is fucking full. It's never been full before. Right. And they literally just told the doctors that they were completely and totally crazy and kicked them out. So like I think to Kathy's point, the level of complete and utter insanity that we might experience as a disconnect between the healthcare professionals and the data and politicians is probably not even warmed up yet, which I literally could not have imagined that would be possible, which basically sums up 2020.
Word rule. I'd rather call them elected officials than politicians. I'd rather call them elected officials because the problem isn't politicians. The problem is the politicians that we've elected. It's that they now hold offices where they get to make decisions for us. And electing a guy who was so far up Trump's ass, he can't see daylight.
It puts the blame on voters. I don't hate that.
And our senator, who was convicted of the largest Medicare fraud of all time, or not convicted, but found liable for the largest Medicare fraud of all time. That's who got elected here. So what are you doing to make sure that those guys get unelected? And we can't do anything about those two in 2020. But there are politicians who would do better for us than the ones we've elected. Therefore, it's elected officials that are the people say that all politicians. I'm a politician. I ran for office. I live and breathe politics, as should we all if we want to understand the world around us. But politician isn't the problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might need some further reminders and training on that, but I'm totally cool with that. Jareen, could you expand on this? You just said I haven't fact checked it. My little bro who works in healthcare said if people sign a waiver, the hospital can refuse treatment at his hospital anyway.
What
does that mean? Like the Trump waiver? Like, no, it's a Democratic hoax. Screw off, and then hospitals could just say, "Go fuck yourself," because that would be, kind of dark, but yeah, no, that would just be kind of dark. That's
basically,
like, help everybody.
Ginny reminds me that DeSantis said yesterday, well, those big numbers we're seeing are mainly coming out of the prisons. Like, oh, well, all right then. That's okay. Minorities that aren't seeking care and the prisons. So, yeah. Good Lord. Okay, so defund the police. I'm seeing a lot of, let me tell you exactly who I'm seeing post this. White people. White people are arguing that defund the police makes them uncomfortable, and it's just fodder for the Republicans. Okay.
Yeah, I'm really bought into your argument about Black Lives Matter because
it's true. They named that on purpose.
Yeah, I remember that even then this kind of came up, and clearly, it was meant to be challenging. And how challenging? How fucking challenging is it just to say, like, hey, we would like to matter. We're not saying you don't matter. We're not saying that fucking like everybody else doesn't matter. We would like to remind everyone who's, funding the police that are murdering us that we matter. Okay. No, not okay. Karen mad. Like it's just that. And I think
who defended the two cops that pushed that old white man in Buffalo and who's now in the hospital with a skull fracture? Who defended the cops? All lives matter. Who's reporting to me all the time on the condition of that old man and his long, painful road to recovery? Black Lives Matter. Huh. It's almost as if they have come to see an opposite reality.
Yeah, right. I did say, see that Fred actually released another podcast recently about this.
I want to listen
and
to
I saw
today.
when he posted a request for information and dialogue on it, that thread was fraught.
Okay, so this is what I wrote this morning, and I saw this. The post that I've seen that really bothered me last night and this morning was, if you don't do anything wrong, the police will leave you alone, right? Just saying. And I've seen that reposted several times. They're like, well, Breonna Taylor was asleep in her bed. Tamir Rice was playing with a toy truck. Philante Castle was driving around with his family, right?
Greg,
so
Rio tried to tell me on a podcast you can go and listen to that I then started yelling on and shut down that the only people that are killed by police are resisting arrest.
Oh, my God.
And then he fucking dug his heels in and just said, why don't you trust the data? Are you fucking going to get your MAGA hat out? I fucking lost it. I'm still fucking pissed off. And like that, I don't know what the future of our moving forward podcast is. Because it's unfucking believable. But like that, and I hope someday, maybe if other people want to talk to him about it, or if I regain some patience and want to do it myself. I had just watched 13th. Rio's the fucking problem.
Yeah.
Like rich, elitist, white people are the fucking problem.
And
who want to call themselves woke.
Not
and
all
then
of them
fucking
are Republicans
completely ignore the issue. Completely ignore the issue. And fuck Steven Pinker too. Because Steven Pinker going out and doing the big, huge historical data, and all that data is good, and it's important to understand that the arc of history is moving in the right direction over a really, really long period of time, gives rich white assholes cover. It really does.
Yeah.
Because it means, no, look, everything's going fine. Have you ever talked to a person in an African-American community one time? Sure doesn't sound like it to me. Like it's unfucking believable. Just in case you didn't know, Greg, every person who ever gets killed by the police was resisting arrest.
Right.
Especially if you listen to Check's notes, the fucking cops.
If defund the police gives you a feeling of dread, it's because you are part of a segment of the population that feels like the police serve you well and keep you safe. And if you've been unable to find any privilege in your life, trust me, this is where your privilege starts. Not everyone in your community shares your experience with the police. Every member of your community who has been mistreated, underserved, or ignored by police has a different view. People who have called because a family member is having a mental health crisis, then watch their family member get tased or shot or arrested, has a different view of police. If you've been sharing or liking that meme that says if you don't do anything illegal, the police will leave you alone, then you do not understand the relationship that marginalized communities have with the police. This is a huge factor in how they are marginalized. And it is far more people than you know, because they know that having a conversation with you about it means hearing about how Blue Lives Matter. At an event to remember murdered trans people 2 years ago, my local sheriff said, "We understand this issue because we get persecuted too." I took the opportunity to remind him that every night he gets to take that uniform off and make a decision every morning to put it back on. That is not what happens when you are black or brown or gay or trans or even homeless. Examine your privilege. It's going to be hard because you're going to find other threads to pull, but it will make you a better person and it will expand your circle of empathy. And that circle of empathy that's what I see my conservative friends missing. They have empathy for people that they have to have empathy for or they can control. But beyond that, they don't have any empathy for people whose life experience is different from them. And, and whether we want to argue whether Colin Kaepernick was showing respect or protesting the flag, it's disrespecting the flag. Well, every African-American person that's been beaten by police or killed by police, the police officer that beat them was wearing that American flag on their uniform. Every single one.
Every single person that I've ever seen who got really, really mad about Kaepernick kneeling and insulting the flag has worn a fucking American flag fucking t-shirt.
Right.
Go fuck yourself.
Or is in that privileged block that I'm talking about.
It's just, they're really good now at creating cultural cannon fodder, and people like fucking Eric and everybody else we know just fucking picks it up. Like every single person out there that in any way, shape, or form is talking about not wanting to wear a mask or anything like that, right? Like you could spot the people that propaganda just takes and goes flick, 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 and then they're gone. And honestly, like fuck those people. Like they're useless to society.
I finally unfriended Eric.
Yeah.
I found a limit where he was getting drunk and threatening to go beat up protesters, and I was like, okay. Oh, rioters and looters and thugs. But what he meant by that was people that are making him uncomfortable. He also posted the other day, are there any airlines that are not requiring masks? And I'm like, well, you're going to show them.
Just tell them, somebody, anyone who's still friends with him, just tell them to go to the Tulsa thing. Just fly on an airplane without a mask and go hang out with a bunch of fucking elderly Trump supporters. I'm sure they'll end well.
So here's the other thing I wanted to read. I read this the other day. It's rather long. And it's going to make some people uncomfortable. I kind of feel like in our listener circle, I'm going to be really surprised if anybody other than Bubbaviz pipes up and says he disagrees. Because he's a nationalist in Europe. Anyway, here we go.
2020 is weird.
Many of you are the problem. Yes, you read that right. Many of you are the reason why these riots are happening. Many of you are the reason why it's come to this. This is especially true if you've ever, but especially in the last week, said any of the following. It's awful, but. No buts. In the English language, the word but is often used to deflect or to justify a behavior. Police murdering black people in the streets is awful, period. End of discussion. 2, I support the movement, but not these disruptive protests. No, you don't. Right now, the movement is taking the form of disruptive protests. They're the same thing. You either want police to stop murdering black people in the street or you don't. If you do, then support the protests, even if you find them disruptive and frustrating, because that's black people fighting for their lives. 3, all lives, white lives matter too. No one said they didn't. The conversation is specifically about black lives right now because police are murdering them in the street. Until police stop doing that and white people stop dismissing it, it's not all lives matter. It's most lives matter. It's not all lives until black lives matter too. Stay focused. 4, there are good cops. No one said that there weren't. There are 3 categories of cops: good cops, bad cops, and complacent cops. Good cops are marching with the protesters. They're sharing the hashtag Black Lives Matter. They're trying to change the system from within the system. There are many levels of bad cop. The most obvious one is those officers who are murdering black people in the streets. Bad cops are also sharing the hashtag Blue Lives Matter. Bad cops are trying to shift the focus. Bad cops don't stop their colleagues when they are murdering black people in the streets. Complacent cops just show up, follow orders, and try not to take sides. Complacent cops are also bad cops. 5. I don't support the looting and destruction. No one says you have to, but please stop acting like looting nullifies the entire protest. And definitely stop acting like looting is just as bad. That's like comparing someone stealing your car to someone murdering your child. They are not equally bad. Stop pretending that they are. Police murdering black people in the street is definitely worse than looting a Target. 6. Just because I'm white doesn't mean my life has been easy. Of course not. Everyone struggles, but being white has never been one of those struggles. Being poor has been a struggle. Being a woman has been a struggle. Being gay has been a struggle. But being white has never been a struggle. The same thing can't be said for people of color. I could go on and on about white privilege, but it would be much easier if you educated yourself instead. This isn't about how you, a white cisgender straight man, has suffered in your life. This is about police murdering black people in the street. Stop trying to make it about you. 7. I really wish they would protest peacefully. Of course you do. That way they're easier to ignore. People of color have been peacefully protesting for hundreds of years. It hasn't been all that successful. The reason riots and violent demonstrations work is because it makes people, especially white people, uncomfortable. We can't ignore them when they're waving torches in our face. It scares us. It puts us on edge, which is precisely where we need to be. People only pay attention to the extreme. If you have trouble recalling a single one of the hundreds of peaceful protests that BLM has held across North America last year, but you can still recall with crystal clarity the 1992 Los Angeles riots, you are proving my point. 8. I don't see color. Congratulations, you're lying to yourself. Of course you see color, and that's good. Black people want you to see their color. Their colors are beautiful and the very foundation of who they are. If you don't see their color, then you also don't see their culture. If you don't see their color, then you are erasing their very identity. If you don't see their color, then you can't see the pattern of violence they're confronted with every day. If you don't see color, then you're blind to more than racial injustice. You are blind to the world. 9. They shouldn't have committed a crime. This one is a big one for me. Consider me triggered. A boy who steals a can of pop from a 7-Eleven does not deserve to be shot in the back 3 times. A man illegally selling CDs on a street corner doesn't deserve to be shot to death in front of a record store. A man who runs a red light does not deserve to be shot while reaching for his registration. This isn't about crimes. This is about bad policing. Stay on topic. 10. Black people kill white people too. Yes, murderers exist in every race and walk of life. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about police brutality, and the reality is black officers are not murdering unarmed white men in the street. This seems to be almost an exclusively white officer behavior. Stop gaslighting. Additions are made based on the comments of the post. 11. Black people kill other black people. Yes, they do. Just like white people kill other white people and Latinos kill other Latinos. Crime-related violence does not adhere to an imaginary racial boundary or allegiance. But we're not talking about criminal violence right now. We're not discussing drug violence or gang violence or sexual violence or domestic violence or bar brawls or whatever random type of violence you'd like to bring up. This conversation is specifically about police brutality. Say it with me. Police brutality. Any other form of violence you bring up is entirely irrelevant. Please stay on topic. 12. I support black people, but I can't support the violence. In other words, you would prefer people of color to continue to be murdered by police rather than have them rise up violently against their oppressors. Got it. That's not support. 13. It's not about race. We are all human beings. Yes, except people of color often aren't treated like human beings. For instance, they're being murdered in the streets like animals by police, on video, while people watch, while people do nothing. 14. The looting and arson distract from their message. It's their fault for not controlling it. If you'd like to lay blame, how about we start with blaming the police who frequently murder unarmed people of color? If they didn't frequently murder unarmed people of color, the protest wouldn't be necessary. The protest wouldn't have turned into a riot. The riot wouldn't have turned violent, and looting wouldn't have happened. Blaming the oppressed for that, or for not better controlling their social unrest, is asinine. 15. More white. I've seen this one a lot. More white people are killed by cops than black people. Here are the statistics. I love when people do research. Thank you for that. Those statistics that you're proudly flashing aren't an accurate reflection of the issue. According to the data, there are approximately 234,370,202 white people in the United States. Comparatively, that same data states that there are 40 million and change black Americans. So when your stats show 1,389 white people have been killed by officers since 2017 and only 543 black people, what those statistics really show is 0.0005% of white people are killed by police in those 3.5 years, while 0.0011% of black people were killed by police. That means black people were killed at a higher rate, 120% higher to be exact. Math has no racial bias. Those aren't great stats. Stop using them to defend your position. 16, black people commit more crime. Do they really, though? According to data released in 2017, there were 475,000 black prisoners in the state and federal prisons and 436,000 white prisoners. That's a difference of about 9%. So for argument's sake, let's say those numbers are an accurate reflection of the amount of crime committed. If people of color committed only 9% more crime, why are they killed by a police at a rate that's 120% higher? 17. Well, the same stats you mentioned show that even though it's only 12% of the population, they commit 54% of the crime. Good catch. You're right. Those numbers don't actually reflect the amount of crime committed. That's why I said to assume they're correct. Those numbers only reveal how many people are incarcerated. The reality is, while those numbers are all we have to go on, they don't tell the complete story either. Gotta have a drink of coffee. Just making sure you know.
I was going to say.
In the United States, specifically, socioeconomic racism, which was designed to keep people of color in poverty through district redlining, lower quality education, and other systemic obstacles, is a huge component. Thanks to redlining, look it up, and other zoning and banking practices, the quality of education in black neighborhoods is significantly lower, which means the average income for people of color in those neighborhoods is lower, and their unemployment is much higher. Also, thanks to redlining, the unemployment rate and lower income rates, crime in those neighborhoods tends to be higher. That means those neighborhoods are patrolled by police more often. Thanks to racial bias, people of color are followed, stopped, harassed, and arrested more frequently than the white people who live in those same neighborhoods. What all of this means is that when people of color are arrested more frequently, they often can't afford fancy lawyers to help them. They usually end up with public defenders who are often overworked, and they often encourage people of color to plead guilty in exchange for less time. Watch 13th. Watch 13th as they explain that in detail. Then there's the fact that because white people make up 73% of the population, they also tend to make up a bigger percentage of jurors. There's lots of factors to consider, so don't assume that just because they make up 54% of the people in jail, that means they make up 54% of the crime. The entire system is broken. That's part of the problem. 18, you're promoting violence and destruction. Shame on you. I don't remember encouraging anyone to riot. I also don't remember encouraging anyone to loot or commit arson. The truth is, looting and arson is certainly not my preferred form of protest, but it's important to remember protesters haven't committed most of the violent behavior. Civil unrest tends to cause chaos and confusion. That chaos provides the perfect opportunity for poor-intentioned people to do poor-intentioned things. That doesn't mean the civil unrest should stop. I don't condone the violence. I just don't think it should dominate the conversation. If you want to focus on the violence, try focusing on those officers who have killed people of color in the street. You're focusing on the wrong violence.
I mean, anyone focusing on the violence is a Tucker Carlson, and go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I saw a post yesterday that was disturbing. It was a little old lady walking down the street, and a young African-American man walking in the opposite direction pushes her. She falls down, smacks her head on a fire hydrant. I didn't see that posted 3 months ago. I didn't see that posted 6 months. I only see that posted. I only see that kind of post when what's happening right now is happening.
Yeah. So the thing, like, crime happens. People are assholes, and there's a lot of cameras, right? Like that it is an unfortunate reality. But it's cherry picking. How many times have you seen the black lady cop that got shot in her car post in the last week and a half? I've seen it 100 times. It's 2.5 years old.
Right. Why are we just seeing it now? Right? What's motivating someone to share that now? See, black people. Like black people. Yeah.
Yeah. It goes around. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't watch 13th until just now, Dave. I totally should have. I thought I knew stuff. I'm sorry. It's suddenly topically relevant, and I could no longer not do it.
Yeah, we showed it. We showed it for our future 2 years ago during the election cycle when we were working on getting the Fourth Amendment passed, or Amendment 4 passed here for felon voter rights restoration. And by the way, we did that. We, the people of fucking Florida, spoke up overwhelmingly to get that passed, and our fucking governor, is still fighting that in court. So that's not really leadership, is it? No. I'm angry.
You don't say. Dreen sent me a full statement by the mayor of Tulsa.
Okay.
Talks about how first little bit is him talking about how they did pretty good on all the stuff. Hospitals had ample stocks of protective equipment, and the Army Corps of Engineers had converted rooms in 3 floors of the medical center to COVID-19 patients. Anyway, since May 1, we followed the state of Oklahoma's reopening plan. Each phase of that plan has involved additional risk as more and more people return to some version of normalcy. So churches, stores, public events. We've always known our positive case rate would rise. The key threat as we reopen is hospital capacity. We want to continue to protect the ability of our local healthcare system, blah, blah, blah. Hospitalization rates peaked in April and was on a downward trajectory, even though the early stages of reopening. It's since started to rise, but it remains comparatively low. Which brings us to next Saturday. Was the nation's first large campaign rally after the arrival of COVID-19 my idea? No. I didn't even know the invitation had been extended until BOK Center management contacted the city regarding police support for the event. Do I share anxiety about having a full house at the BOK Center? Of course. As someone who's cautious by nature, I don't like to be first to try anything, blah, blah, blah. We have been following the state of Oklahoma's guidelines for reopening ever since May 1st. This is why I wanted to read all the way through this. Hundreds of thousands of Oklahomans go to work every day in buildings that have adjusted their operations along these guidelines. The Trump campaign has agreed to follow these guidelines as well. No, they haven't. They absolutely have not. Every attendee will have to pass a temperature check. Every attendee will be provided with a mask, even though, they're not going to use it. Every attendee will have access to hand sanitizer stations. We're not going to suddenly abandon the state plan. But this is the thing, this is a joke. This is a joke. Because, nobody's going to wear a mask. And if they do wear a mask, they're going to be fucking vilified in that crowd.
Right. They're going to have it under their nose.
Such a mess.
Right. And they're going to be, what about food service? You're right. They're going to be eating and drinking.
And all the people that have to fucking work there, man.
All the minimum wage people that work there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
You see, this is the thing, man. I would like to get very drunk right now. Having, because I'm not a terrifically empathetic person, I don't think, but I feel like having any active functioning empathy right now is just like getting punched in the dick every day.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, but I don't know. I'm finding myself not, I'm not a person that lacks empathy. And I'll tell you something. I know you banged on Steven Pinker earlier, and I want to read the most recent analysis of his work. But one of the things that he says that has changed in the long term, and we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years, is that if you were a person born in, let's say, what's now England in 1550, the likelihood was that you would live your entire life within 5 miles of the spot that you were born. You would never travel outside of that circle. And so the only people you would have empathy for would be your immediate family and people that spoke the same local dialect as you, right? That the flourishing of the written word, the ability to read novels, which often put you in the position of understanding the life of a Spaniard, made it possible for us to empathize with people unlike ourselves. So his thing is, or at least one part of his thing was, that the expanding circle of empathy is why violence has been on a long reduction track. And he is clear. He is absolutely clear that there will be spikes. There will be anomalies within that. There are things that seem to appear to reverse entropy, but the overall trend is downward. And he's not wrong about that. And he may be wrong about what's happening locally. But I've read that book 4 times. I've read
I love
City
that. I love that
4
book.
times. And
But it literally took my friend Rio and turned him into a fucking all lives matter asshole.
Well, that's the opposite of what Steven Pinker actually says in the book.
What
Pinker
like,
says in the book is there are problems. You know, if you're living in the middle of a civil war where people are being slaughtered, right. You can't see that trend. He does make the point though that our perception of violence in America, you know, is often because we take on board media in real time. Like I'm having people make this argument with me today. Oh, there's more gun crime now than there's ever been. No, there isn't actually. The peak for gun crime in the United States is like 1952. The peak for danger to police is like 1985. The most the per capita rate of gun accidents where children are killed by firearms, the peak there is 1937. So we hear about it, we see it, we know about it now in a way we never did before. And I think that, you know, you talk about people getting their amygdala flicked, right? That the response that news wants you to have because they want you to stay tuned for the commercials or through the commercials. You know, are people really being murdered in the streets? We'll get to that right after this. That kind of, you know, parsing of and I see that more in local news than I do on national news, by the way. So I don't know. Using Pinker to try and defend the idea that we're not having a problem is fucking ridiculous. And Pinker would tell you the same thing.
I agree.
He's still alive, and I'm sure he will tell us the same thing here shortly.
I don't even think he's that old.
No, he's in his mid-60s.
TED Talk. Yeah, he's all right.
Yep.
Fred said feeling empathy is important, but it's also emotionally difficult. We're watching horrible things, and it's painful. We have to watch, but it's difficult to maintain sanity. That's right. Actually, I'm gonna get that tattooed to my forehead. Yeah.
Ginny says Iraq had a larger literacy rate than the United States prior to 9/11.
I'm a little worried about that one because Iraq was an authoritarian government and all information passed through Saddam Hussein. So like
literacy, but literacy, you know, doesn't determine what you read. Just that you can.
Well, it's a data point shared by an authoritarian dictator.
I could see it. I'm sure Iran has a higher literacy rate now than we do.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, especially if you're just, you know, the government's forcing you to read the Quran.
Yeah. Rio was predisposed to being an enema, says Ginny.
Yeah.
Fred says feeling empathy is important, but it's also emotionally difficult. Oh, you did. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. It's good. You could read it again if you want. I shouldn't have interrupted you. It is quite a good comment.
I was thinking about that very thing this morning. I've been on an unfriending spree over the past 2 weeks. And, you know, I have one worry that I'm living in a silo now that like I'm not, but no, I see enough people post shitty things on other people's posts that I have no doubt what people are saying out there in the rest of the world. But it is exhausting. But here's the thing that this morning, as a person that considers myself, you know, a rational actor in the world and empathic and working for the good of people who have less than me, I found a privilege point this morning. Right. If I get mad and frustrated and disgusted with the conversation, I get to opt out. I don't have to worry about going to a job where other people around the water cooler are talking about Trump and, you know, and all lives matter and put up with it and keep my fucking mouth shut because it could cost me my way to make a living. So I have some privilege in this regard. You know, I can opt out of these conversations. African Americans cannot. They cannot. And they are far more fatigued and exhausted and exasperated than I am.
Like generationally, I think about this all the time. Like I can't grok that in any useful way. I don't feel like I'm going to try, but I don't think it's going to work.
You've had some eye opening about Canada this week. I saw your Aunt Gail.
Well, and I knew that before. I still sort of I absolutely romanticized.
I did too. I was shocked when I lived in Canada to find out that Vancouver police were taking homeless people on what they called a moonlight tour, where they would haul them out of Robson Street, which is, you know, the Robsonstrasse is like the cultured heart of Vancouver, and they would take them out to Stanley Park, take their shoes away from them, douse them with water, and leave them out there.
To pivot, which is terrible, just throw that out there. Oh no, Crystalia accused of sexual misconduct. I'm sorry, that doesn't surprise me, which makes me a terrible person. So and whatever, we'll see. Investigate, blah blah blah. Because so yesterday we had two interesting data points. North Korea blew up their little house on the border.
Yeah.
Which, you know, lot of interesting things going on about that. On the same day, 20 Indian soldiers died killed by Chinese soldiers on a border dispute, which is like, oh, cool. They both have nuclear weapons. I'm sure that's fine. As of 10 minutes ago, Pompeo is to meet with top Chinese official in Hawaii.
I'm sure that'll go well.
Right? It's just as bad as everything is. I have an internal Dave Myers monologue because I have a basic understanding of how much worse it actually could get.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. It's bad. So,
yeah, the weird thing about the China-India conflict is that's a 46-year-old conflict.
Yeah, it's like, why you got to be dicks now? Settle down.
Well, this is why, because we're in chaos.
Yeah.
Right. Because
well, and
if
they're
you're going
both
to be a bad
right?
actor, right? If you're going to be a bad actor in the world, now's a really good time to do it.
Well, that's it, right. Well, and the Indian president is like a little mini Trump. So, like, come on now.
Yeah, he's a nationalist. Yeah, for sure, a Hindu nationalist. But the other weirdest part about that story yesterday is that no gunfire was exchanged. So the Indian soldiers that were killed were beaten to death because I think if I have this correct, like soldiers on both sides have been disarmed. Like they're not allowed to carry guns because they know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because they know what will happen, right? So
yeah, well, the Chinese know kung fu, so that's how fucked you are, I guess.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you just go? Did you go martial arts racist right there?
Yeah. Yep. I did. I totally did. Ash Gallagher sent me this thing by the guy who made Thor Ragnarok. The New Zealander dude. I'm struggling to recall his name. He made Jojo Rabbit too.
Okay.
Fucking, he's genius. Anyway, he did this big, huge sort of infomercial asking people to do more for racism. It's like just picture perfect satire. I'll see if I can find it and throw it up on the solo page. It was fucking Taika Waititi. Thank you, Dave. Waititi. Sorry, I got that wrong too.
Yep. Yep. Hey, yeah, Gorsuch agreeing with liberals on Monday. That's fascinating.
That's fun. Well, and like the
Susie told us that would happen, by the way. Remember, Susie McAnally told us Gorsuch was different.
She did actually. Yeah, I mean, well, let's not get very excited about Gorsuch just yet. That was one great. He made the basic, most pathetic logical argument that could be made in the English language.
Right.
That is exactly what the intent of previous precedent law is. It's not like he fucking lifted a boulder. He just said, yeah, no, like the discrimination laws are a thing. Right. He's going to end up fucking everyone in the country before long. Anytime he agrees with Brett Kavanaugh. So anyway,
I did not know that, Dave Myers.
He's the voice of IG-11.
Yeah, and directed some Mandalorian episodes. That's cool to know.
That is cool. I fucking love that show.
Yep. All right, so things are shitty, but we are still, I don't know, able to go online and do a show without the police knocking down our door. We are still laughing at some things, some dark things, but we're laughing. We are drinking coffee in our air-conditioned homes. So we got that going for us.
Yep.
Which is nice.
Yeah, I'm not going to fight you about that, Dave.
Best show of all time?
I might line up behind you on that one. Like, what show is better off the top of your head?
Firefly.
Baby Yoda. Nope.
Dave's head's going to explode.
No, I love Firefly.
No, he hates Firefly, so...
Yeah. Sure. Dave, just keep that one under wraps for a minute while I'm on your side.
Great job, you Antifa troublemakers. Yep.
Yeah, I guess.
I have a proud lineage of anti-fascism in my family.
Yeah, Ginny just mentioned Upload on Amazon. If you haven't seen that, it was really well done.
Where the guy dies, right? And
yeah.
I watched a few episodes. I don't know, maybe 4 episodes in.
That gives me hope that they're eventually going to do the Bobaverse.
Right.
I think I know I talk about it all the time. It's really cool.
Right. I'm reading a book Corey recommended called Seven Eves. which is a sci-fi book. It's like I'm sucked in 20 pages in. Oh, by
Yeah,
the
yeah.
wait. Max Brooks.
It's the best start to the book. Yeah, we definitely need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Best start to a book ever. And this is not even giving anything away. Within those first 10 pages, something fucking destroys the moon.
The first page.
Right?
First page.
It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, Max Brooks. For those that don't know, is the what did I just do? Brooks. There we go. Is the guy that wrote
World War Z.
Thank you, World War Z, which was
so much better than I ever could have imagined.
The style it was written, it was like like if I read a lot of military history, and it was written like by survivors of a war would write.
Yeah,
and
super well done.
Looking back at the zombie apocalypse, and by the way, the movie, well, interesting, nothing like the book. I think if they had done it more like the book, it would have been great. Max Brooks is also the son of Mel Brooks. A lot of people don't know that or didn't know that. So, he's got a new book out. Do you know what the new book is, Corey?
Isn't it about like Sasquatch or some stupid shit?
It is. It's about a Sasquatch massacre. Yeah, so I have to get my hands on that. There's a Max Brooks book, and it's Sasquatch related. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm excited. All right, so like it's 10 till, and you were not sure you even wanted to get out of bed today, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah, me too, I guess.
Yeah, here's that thing.
I got to talk about the Mandalorian for a bit. That was
right.
Good.
Where you take on 8 million things and you burn the fuck out. And
shut up, Greg. Just because you're right doesn't mean you should say it out loud all the time. Just kidding. You totally should. Totally should. Yeah, all no, right. everything sucks.
Not everything sucks. Not everything sucks.
Like, yeah, everything sucks. And like, I am still, as you mentioned, in a very nicely air conditioned place, not worrying about anything.
Right.
Really.
So I want to do a local promotional thing. It's not promotional for me. It's promotional for a cause. This week on Friday is June 19th. And in the African-American community, mostly in the South to begin with, it's now got wider awareness, is a holiday called Juneteenth. And for those of you that don't know, one of the things that happened in the Civil War as Union troops came deeper and deeper through the South is they sliced all railway and telegraph lines. So the means of communicating messages from one part of the Confederacy to the other ceased. And once they cut the Mississippi River, it meant that people in Texas did not get the word on things. So a ship sails into Galveston Bay on June 19th, 1865, with the news that all African Americans are now free, that they are no longer slaves. So the day that slaves in Texas learned that they were free is June 19th, 1865. So Juneteenth is a celebration of that day. And in small communities in the South, it's always been a day that our Black friends gather up and they have barbecues and celebrations and speeches by friends. It's usually a dress-up day like church would be. And for years, our African-American club here in Pasco County has had a Juneteenth celebration. I've been to a few of them. They're not going to be able to have one this year because of COVID-19. And they also had to cancel their big scholarship banquet fundraiser dance, which is a big deal in our town. But anyway, those of us that are in the local BLM activist circle, and I don't, I'm not a member of Black Lives Matter. I am supportive of the movement, but I have not been vetted by them. So my position is to hold space for them. Anyway, the local organizers said, why don't we do something for Juneteenth? So what we decided is, we know it's Saturday is the 20th. It's not the 10th. We get it. But it's the best possible day to do this. We're going to gather up on Main Street in downtown Newport Richey at the entrance to Sims Park. I want to make sure that I'm clear on this. It's not a rally in Sims Park, because that's never going to happen, because they're going to want to charge us $25,000 for police protection and a permit. But we're going to meet at the entrance gate, the Main Street entrance gate to Sims Park, and we are at 2:00, and we are going to march up to US 19 and back in support of Black Lives Matter and in celebration of Juneteenth. That's happening Saturday from 2 to 5 in downtown Newport Richey. I would love for you to come. And I understand the social distancing thing, and I understand the risk for COVID. I really do. I'm making a decision for me to go. And if you felt like you're safe enough to go out to a bar or a restaurant, then I implore you, that you're safe enough to come to this protest. I see more people masked up at a protest than I see at any grocery store or restaurant that I've yet seen. We're being as safe as we can. We're trying to be responsible and social distance. We're discouraging people from hugging and touching, which is difficult because I see all my radical friends there. But there's going to be a thing Saturday, and it's going to be pretty big. It's been shared now by some of the Democratic Party clubs and some other organizations. So there's some momentum here. And the problem is that the media, and I'm not an anti-media guy, tends to look away when shit's not on fire, right? But protests are happening. The biggest, best organized protest that's happened yet in Tampa happened last Saturday, and it was completely peaceful, and it got almost no media attention. So let's keep the pressure on. Changes are being made. Pressure is being applied. What we're doing is working, and we would like very much to have a turnout for this. And there's some of us that are designating ourselves as rodeo clowns. If we see violence against our black friends, our job is going to be to interpose ourselves between that violence and the protesters who are African American and people of color. So,
before we go, I have to hit you with a little Corey pep talk.
Hey,
yeah. At the Orlando International Airport, they tested 500 employees. 260 of them were positive.
Yeah, we are not winning the war on COVID-19.
Honestly, like the protests I get. I mean, the throwing your body, whether it's in front of horses and dogs or this disease, it's legit. If you're going, quarantine yourselves afterwards. Just don't take any chances. And that way, to whatever extent that you possibly can, I get you're taking your own health into your hands. And I absolutely respect that. Make sure that you don't accidentally put other people at risk, like for 2 to 3 weeks afterwards. Because right now, it just looks like they're saying, fuck it. 2 million people can die in the United States and they don't give a fuck. And it won't just be 2 million because the hospitals at this pace, like by fall, the hospitals will be overrun all over the country because they're not doing anything to stop it. Pence is saying it's not even a fucking problem. So I absolutely realize that it's a calculated risk and that it's something that people feel very rightfully super strongly about. But a lot of people are going to die.
African Americans have been putting their lives, literally their bodies and their lives on the line.
Yep. I just said
stop from being murdered
totally
in the streets for decades. And if I'm going to take a risk, it's not going to be for a cheeseburger.
Yeah, no, I get it.
This.
Yep.
So that's my calculation. Yeah.
Yep. I respect it. Shit's going to get bad. Pep talk over.
Hey, I have a question, Jareen, if you're still with us. Is there a statue or a memorial to the Tulsa massacre in Tulsa? To the Black Wall Street massacre? I know it'll take a couple of minutes to get that. Yep, there is. So it's interesting to me that the corollary is if we take down all these Confederate monuments, nobody will learn about Confederate history. When in fact there is a monument to the Tulsa Race Massacre, but none of us learned about that in school, despite there being a monument. So it's almost as if what keeps people learning about the Confederacy and keeps people from learning about things like Rosewood and the Groveland Four and Tulsa is racism. That's all I got today. Let's see. Oh, breaking news from Dave Myers. Where'd it go? Where'd that post go? No, it's from Jen. Sorry. Devolution is being optioned for a feature film. That's the Sasquatch story by Max Brooks. So not only is Sasquatch real, it's going to be a feature film.
And scene.
Love you guys.